So first up, we have Rabbi Jeff Goldwasser from Temple Sinai.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Awareness of the pain and cruelty of homelessness is built right into the core of Western religion. The story of humanity begins with the story of Adam and Eve being removed from the only home they had ever known, the Garden of Eden. Abraham, too, is told to leave his home and to live as an alien wanderer. Tradition says that the entire nation of Israel wandered for 40 years in the wilderness, yearning for a home. And in Christian scripture, the story of Jesus begins with a husband and wife who must resort to giving birth in a stable. Over and over, our traditions recognize that not having an adequate home to shelter our families is the ultimate sign of vulnerability. The need to provide adequate housing is recognized in Jewish law. The Talmud proclaims that it is the obligation of the community to provide for a poor person who is financially unable to house his family. The community, the Talmud says, must rent a house for him, arrange for him a bed. Traditional Jewish law goes even further, requiring landlords to maintain the homes they rent up to a decent standard that is set by the community, not by the renter. Landlords, the law says, must fix broken windows if the tenants need light, even if the landlord deems that there's already a lot of light. Today in Rhode Island, we are not living up to the standards of our faith traditions. Today in Rhode Island, families who earn the state's average income cannot afford the state's average two-bedroom apartment. I want you to think about that for a moment. There are currently almost 14,000 families in Rhode Island that are on the waiting list to receive federal housing choice vouchers, commonly called Section 8. Families spend years waiting to receive these vouchers, but even when they receive them, they often cannot find a landlord who will rent to them. That is because in Rhode Island, it is legal for landlords to refuse to even talk to prospective renters with vouchers for no other reason than that they have a voucher. 13 states, the District of Columbia, and 62 counties and municipalities have laws that prohibit this kind of discrimination against recipients of housing vouchers, including Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maine, and Vermont. These non-discrimination laws mean that landlords cannot reject a tenant solely because of the source of the income they use to pay their rent. H 7528, sponsored by Representatives Williams, Shikarchi, Hull, Ranglin-Vassell, and Regenberg, and S 2301, sponsored by Senator Metz, Crowley, Quezada, Chacon, and Jabbour, would bring these protections from discrimination to Rhode Island. These bills would make sure that every tenant deserves to be considered by every landlord without regard to whether they will use a housing choice voucher to pay their rent. That's it. That's all that this law would do. This bill would not require any landlord to rent to anyone. It would not prevent landlords from considering a prospective renter's ability to pay rent. It would not prevent landlords from rejecting a prospective renter based on a credit check or a background check. It would not require landlords to lower the rent for a voucher holder. It would not apply to owner-occupied buildings with 3 or fewer units. It would not set standards for the quality of housing above the standards that already exist for every rental unit. And the bill would not cost the state anything. It would, however, do something much more. It would bring our state's housing policies in line with the dictates of our faith traditions and demand that we meet the needs of every human being to have a roof over her or his head in a home that is safe, secure, and dignified. Thank you.